A very happy and blessed new year. Now, any one of us here, you have stayed up late to the countdown? Just a quick show of hands. All right, I'm so happy that you're still in church this morning. And get to see everyone. And this morning I'm going to share with you, in a way, a New Year message. Just looking at the book of Ecclesiastes. But before that, just some years ago, I read an article that talks about these two women. Her name is Kath and her friend is Angie. And Kath herself, she's a very qualified nurse. And she has been caring for her friend Angie ever since she was diagnosed with MND, motor neuron disease. And then it started with Angie feeling kind of some weaknesses in her arm before it gradually affected her legs, her speech, her ability to eat and to breathe. And then in the final stage, as you can see here, is that it led to paralysis of her body. And as a result, she was put on a special wheelchair, and the way she communicated was via a computerized voice processor. And it was not easy for Kath, seeing her friend not in a good shape. But Angie was a fighter, and she refused to allow this disease to dampen her spirit. And while she was caring for Angie, Kath had been feeling kind of, a bit unwell for quite a while. She went to the doctor, and later she was referred to a specialist. And finally, the medical report came out, and to her horror, the neurologist told her that she was diagnosed with MND, the same disease that Angie had. And it came as a total shock. And she had a hard time revealing this to her family, her husband, and her 3 lovely daughters then. And in fact, some years ago, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And the family initially thought that her cancer had came back. And knowing the nature of this disease as a nurse, Catherine said this: "I'm writing in my own handwriting for as long as I can, penning letters to my girls, then they'll have it to keep when I am gone." And here we see a powerful story of friendship. A friend that sticks closer than a brother or a sister. And I'm sure we love to have all-weather friend in our life, not just only during our good times, but also be there for us in our difficult times. But then, there is this harsh reality that you and I battle constantly. That there are things that happen in our lives that cannot be explained. And it often lets us feeling troubled or confused. Suddenly, the meaning behind what we experience become kind of incomprehensible, hard to grasp. And we try to make sense of what is happening. And often it leads to despair, a sense of hopelessness. It makes us feel powerless and resigned to the inescapable burden of pain, suffering, and even death. Life seemingly has now become a great mystery. And who could have thought? Who could have thought that a caring friend, a wonderful wife, a mother of 3 beautiful girls, suffer a similar disease? It probably is 1 in a million. But things does happen. No one sees it coming. No one can predict. It comes when we are least prepared for it. So how? How should we deal with all these human struggles which life seems to mysteriously throw at us? And as Christians, as followers of Christ, we are not exempted from all of this. And in the next few Sundays, we are going to embark on a mini-series on the book of Ecclesiastes. And I entitled it, Our Quest for Life's Meaning. And some says that Ecclesiastes is the most philosophical book in the Old Testament. And indeed, as I read, I find it to be very true. And in this Old Testament wisdom literature, which also include Job, Proverbs, Psalms, Song of Solomon, the author of Ecclesiastes made many observations. His reflections concerning the totality of human experience as he embarks on his quest for the meaning of life. And interestingly, he has given himself a nickname or a pseudonym, Koheleth, which in Hebrew has the same meaning as the English word that we read, Ecclesiastes. And Koheleth means what? It means someone who has been given the responsibility to gather materials for public education, like what's happening now, calling God's people together and as a community to teach and to instruct. And that's what Koheleth is doing. And imagine in the world that Koheleth lives in back then, probably about 400 or 500 BC, he observes something, a few things. He observes the tension between our human toils and the goodness of life, the food that we enjoy, the recreations, the pleasures, the wealth and the riches. And he also noticed the tension between life and death, the tension between righteousness and wickedness, as we can see in the world that we live in, the tension between wisdom and foolishness. And as ancient as this book may be, it has many similarities to the current world that we live in. The world may change. Government may change. Politics may change. Demographics may change. But our human experience on this earth has never changed. And with that, shall we turn to Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verses 1 to 11. And he begins, the words of the teacher, son of David, king in Jerusalem, meaningless, meaningless, utterly meaningless, everything is meaningless. What do people gain from all their labors at which they toil under the sun? Generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun sets and hurries back to where it rises. And the wind blows to the south and turns to the north. Round and round it goes, ever returning on its course. All streams flow into the sea, yet the sea is never full. The place the streams come from, there they return again. All things are wearisome, more than one can say. The eye never has enough of seeing, and the ear its fill of hearing. What has been will be again, what has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything new of which one can say, look, this is something new? It was here already long ago. It was here before our time. No one remembers the former generations. Even those yet to come will not be remembered by those who follow them. So what we are seeking to do this morning is to observe and to identify the range of our human experience while we are living on this earth. That as we begin this new year in 2023, it will help us in a way to become more self-aware. And it's important in life that there are times we need to have some self-awareness by paying attention to what is happening inside of us and also our surrounding situations. And out of which we seek to gain a better understanding of what we are experiencing through the lenses of Scriptures. And here, Kehila begins his quest. Now, have you ever walked into a bookstore and you were looking for a book that talks about self-improvement, how to have better self-esteem, how to be successful in life or business, and then you found one. You found this book, but then when you open the first page or the introductory page, it says to you, meaningless, meaningless, utterly meaningless, everything is meaningless. And this sounds very encouraging, right? Would you read on? Would you even think of buying this book? Because it sounds so pessimistic and gloomy. And some say that the author of Ecclesiastes may have been the wise king, King Solomon, because it mentioned that the words of the teacher, son of David, king in Jerusalem. However, Bible scholars nowadays are telling us that the author himself may have been a wise teacher or a preacher with the kingly wisdom and the authority to teach God's people. And notice what we are reading here this morning, the word meaningless in English. But then in ancient Hebrew, it's read as Hebel or Hebel, which basically means vanity, useless, futility, vapor, breath, or bubble. But here, the teacher is not saying that life has no meaning at all. He doesn't mean that. In fact, Kehila himself is a firm believer in who God is, but he's struggling. He's struggling with that he's trying to make sense of the totality of our human experience from a human perspective. And then he intensifies the word Hebel 4 times. Vanity, vanity, utterly vanity, everything is vanity. In other words, what he's saying is that life itself is often incomprehensible. That there is no satisfactory explanation to the problem of evil or suffering or death. And with such intensity in his opening statement, Kehila now seeks to draw us as readers to step into his world of observation, reason, and experience. Now back to the story of Kev and Angie, these two very good friends. It is almost incomprehensible that these two childhood friends had the same disease. It wasn't a contagious disease that was spread to Kev. And both Kev and Angie grew up in Tasmania and later they moved to Melbourne. Their kids happened to be in the same school. When life is good and the future looks promising, MND took away the quality of life. Just like that. And if we are to put ourselves in their shoes, is it possible? Is it possible to find meaning behind all these struggles? And interestingly, the word meaningless or Hebel has another meaning, wind, which Kehila later described as chasing after the wind. It's like trying to grasp the wind. Now, have you ever tried to grasp the wind with your bare hands? And often in life, we try to grasp the meaning of life, the meaning of our human experience, using our human logic, our human reasoning, but very often we hit the wall. So life at times can be puzzling. Life doesn't always give us a satisfactory answer. Life does not even give us an early warning of what is ahead of us. And perhaps this morning, there is someone that you may know who may be suffering from an incurable disease or a very serious sickness. Or just in the recent years, we have friends, good friends, we have loved ones who have passed away. Or you may know of someone who is on the verge of giving up because of the challenges in life. And it seems that life has not been fair to us sometimes as we try hard to make sense of what is happening in us and also around us. And according to Koheleth, he reasons that life is meaningless vanity. And just last week, my family, together with my wife's sister and her family, we were holidaying in Tasmania, a very beautiful place. And we spent half a day at this famous beach called the Wineglass Bay, a very beautiful beach, white sand. And I remember sitting there in the afternoon, and that's me, on the beach observing the incoming waves. It comes, it retreats, and it went on and on and on. It never stops. And then I kind of had this thought in my mind, why God didn't make the sea still and calm. It would have been a lot quieter and more peaceful during that afternoon. And in a way, this reflects our human world. Things come and go. People come and go. And Koheleth asks his opening question to his readers. What do we gain from all our labor at which we toil under the sun? What do we gain? And this is actually a rhetorical question which is common in those days. And the purpose is to capture the reader's attention, to provoke our hearts and our mind, and to invite us into Koheleth's quest for meaning. And you notice that Koheleth loved to use the word under the sun or under the heaven a number of times, which basically points to all the activities that a person does while he lives on this earth. Things like the pursuit of knowledge, skills, and wisdom, like what we do, human achievements, seeking pleasures and recreations, hobbies, enjoying food and drinks like what we do with our family in Christmas, working hard, amassing wealth and possessions, and so on. And Koheleth continues by saying, generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever. Just like the wave that you saw just now, our human experience, our human activities comes and go. Nothing has changed. And perhaps it's like the first 18 years of our life. We were once young for some of us here. We were under the care and love and guidance of our parents. Later we graduated, we found a job, and then we have our own circle of friends. We found a life partner, married, start a family, and have children. And I'm just speaking this generally. It may not happen to all of us here. And then our children grew up. Like this young gentleman is running out of the auditorium now. And later we had our own plans. They had their own plans. They married. They had their own family. Then what happened to us? We grow what? We grow old. Probably with the walking stick. We grow old, and then later we have grandkids. But in the end, we return to where we came from, 6 feet under the ground, back to the soil. But then the lives of our children and our children's children continues, repeating the very same cycle of life. And from there, Koheleth now tells us something that he observed about Mother Nature, the natural world. He says the sun rises and the sun sets. He hurries back to where it rises, and it starts all over again the next day. And during our family holiday in another place in Kota Kinabalu, some of you may know where is it, in East Malaysia, we had the chance to watch the beautiful sunrise and sunset from our hotel room, which has this amazing sea view. Please pardon me for my beautiful feet. And next, Kehillah describes about the wind. It blows to the south and it comes up to the north, round and round. It goes returning to where it started, and talks about the water. The streams come in and went to the sea, and from the sea it goes back to where it comes from. In other words, both the cycle of our human life and natural world repeats that same process. It just goes on and on and on. And on that note, notice with me, Kehillah makes this conclusion about our human life. He says this: all things, not some things or many things, he says all things under this earth are wearisome and burdensome, more than one can describe. Life itself, with all our human experiences and activities, is just monotonous. It's repetitive. Life is like a revolving door. And just looking and listening to life experiences that we all have gone through to find meaning has proven to Kehillah wearisome. It's burdensome. Vanity, vanity, everything is vanity. Now, as we reflect on this, do our day-to-day living produce joy and satisfaction? Do we find meaning and purpose in our daily chores and daily roles and responsibilities? Yes, life seemingly may be monotonous. Life may be repetitive. Life can be stressful and often can be pretty exhausting. But Os Guinness, a Christian author and a social critic, apparently a professor of philosophy at Oxford University, he has something to tell us about the quest for the meaning of life. And this is what he says: the truth is that we humans are meaning mongers. Meaning is as native to us as the air we breathe and the earth where we walk. Every word we utter, every act we perform, every plan we make, every sentence you are reading shouts out meaning, meaning, meaning. Without meaning, both our moment-by-moment daily lives and our lives taken as a whole would be worse than trivial. They would be worthless and futile. And in our fallen human nature, we are constantly trying to find meaning from our everyday life. And we often ask the question, why? Why? Even our children will ask, why? Why is this happening to me? Why is it happening to those people around me? And Os Guinness tells us this: we humans are a unique life form on the earth. We are the only species. We are the only species that asks why. We are self-aware to a degree that no other animals appear to be. Yet we know too that we are in a world that doesn't explain itself. And living in a consumerist, modern, affluent society, one of the ways we find meaning in our daily life is our consumption of goods and services. And we are always seeking good new products or services. And just look at the way we upgrade our smartphones. From the S21 to S22, iPhone 13 to the iPhone 14. Why do we do that? It makes us feel happy. But we know it's only for a moment. And after concluding all things in life are repetitive and burdensome and wearisome, Kehillah now amplifies the human struggle. And he wrote this: what has been will be again, what has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which one can say, look, this is something new? Now look at this. Did Kehillah make a wrong observation? How can he say there's nothing new under the sun? And in fact, in chapter 2, you will read, he himself had built new homes and new gardens, acquired new servants, undertook new projects, and so on. And surely these are new things. And in today's world, it is the latest fashion, the latest cars, the latest smart TVs, and these are new things. But if we were to examine closely, there's nothing new about it. They are just an improvement of the older models. Same functionality, serve the same purpose. So friends, brothers and sisters, what kind of new things have you been seeking? Even for myself, I just bought a new pair of Nike shoes at a very good discount, a new pair of shoes for the year. New jobs with better salaries, new promotions, new and better goods, new relationship when the former one may not have worked out well, new knowledge, new skill, new holiday destinations, better homes and gardens. But don't get me wrong, these are not sinful, worldly pursuits. But the fact of the matter is that all these activities, all these human experience under the sun are nothing new. Nothing has changed. It just goes on and on and on. And worse, at the end of the day, Kehillah says, no one remembers us. Even though we have worked so hard, we make a name for ourselves, we've achieved some success. Kehillah says that no one remembers the former generations, and even those yet to come will not be remembered by those who follow them. So if no one remembers our toys, if no one remembers our achievement, what do we gain? What do we profit from all of this? Nothing. According to Kehillah, a chasing after the wind is just a mist, a vapor, a bubble. All these efforts are futile, vanity, vanity. Everything is vanity. And it's a reminder to us that as much as we work hard to take care of the important things in life, as we begin this new year, we should also remember our own spiritual journey, experiencing daily the renewing power of God to become more like Jesus. And I guess it's also a reminder that every one of us who are seated here, we long to be remembered and appreciated. A smile, a greeting, that what we did this morning, a card, a simple visit, a prayer, is all it takes to brighten up someone who might be doing tough in life at the moment. So brothers and sisters, may the Holy Spirit remind us this morning, someone that you can love and care for. And think about that person that the Lord might lay upon your heart and pray for that person. But more than just pray, put our prayers into actions and let them know that you remember them. But more importantly, let them know that God remembers them too. And as we close this morning, Kehillah, the wise teacher, the preacher, shared with us 3 observations. Life is meaningless, according to Kehillah. Life is repetitive and monotonous. Life itself has nothing new under the sun. And we also learn that life at times can be puzzling. Life seems to be a great mystery. But friends, I have good news for you this morning. Despite Koheleth's observation, that we can take great comfort as we are seated here this morning. We can take great encouragement through Koheleth's honest observation, and he's very honest with us. And he reminds us that God is clearly aware. God is clearly aware of the frailty and the brevity of human life since the time when Adam and Eve sinned against God. And we know the fall has serious impact and consequences on the human race. But God already knows. And that's why we're here this morning, singing the songs. God already knows. God understands our struggles in trying to make sense of what is happening to us in our experience. And God feels our pain. He feels our sorrow and frustration and disappointment. And God has already put in place His redemptive plan as we look at the cross. When 2,000 years ago, Jesus came to this earth for you and for me, as what we have celebrated last Sunday, remembering the birth of Jesus. And furthermore, God empathizes. God empathizes with our human weakness. As He was hung on the cross, taking upon Himself the penalty for our sin, our rebellion towards God, our pain, our suffering, our sicknesses, our despair, our loneliness, injustice, death, and so on. So take heart. Take heart, my beloved friends, this morning. Jesus went to the cross so that you and I could come to God the Father, forgiven, set free from sin and death, with the blessings of the gospel of Jesus that promises us what? An eternal life above the sun. And at the end of his book, Koheleth penned these words. He says, remember your Creator in the days of your youth. And that should always be our starting point, even as we are gathered here this morning on the 1st of January 2023. That should always be our daily starting point. Remember God. And as what the Apostle Paul says to us, be very careful then how you live each day. Not as unwise, but learning to be wise. Making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. Therefore, Paul says, therefore do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. Even as I seated here with scriptures being open to us to understand the Lord's will. So church, as we begin our new year, let's remember. Now say to each other, would you like to? Remember. Remember God, our Creator, our Father. For it is God alone who alone gives meaning and purpose and fulfillment in life through His Son, Jesus. That no matter how puzzling or unpredictable life may be, God is always there from generation to generation. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He is always good and faithful. And can I hear a resounding amen? Amen. I'd like to invite the worship team to come up and let's sing together and proclaim His goodness and faithfulness as we begin the new year, 1st January 2023.